Welcome back, or welcome to Real Talk with Chuck and Pam. Thanks for joining this week on this podcast. We've got a lot to talk about. We're just going to kind of gloss over everything that came out last week and a couple things that came out this week or are coming out this week. And every single week is going to be kind of like this because everything is coming out now. It's hard to squeeze it all in. Don't you think, Chuck?
That's what she said, and you are correct. We're just, the studios hold back everything for the award season, and we are in it, right in the midst of it. And it's going to be a full court press all the way through mid-January, really.
Yes, definitely. Let's start off and just touch upon Heretic, starring Hugh Grant. Now, Chuck, I loved it. I thought it was a smart psychological horror film. I thought it did a wonderful job of laying the foundation in the beginning and created a really smart dialogue to understand the history of religion, as well as the belief system and what are beliefs. I thought it was extremely smart. I thought Hugh Grant did an incredible job as Mr. Reed, the man who came in or who invited these two young girls from the Mormon church to talk about their religion. I didn't think it was overly gruesome. I thought the gruesomeness happened at just the right spots. I thought it was a well-balanced film, well-written and smart. How about you?
I agree with everything you said regarding the first half of the film.
Okay, then what?
Well, I agree. It was smart. It was very intriguing. I loved one of the best scenes I've seen this year is with Grant comparing religion to Monopoly games. I thought that was a little bit of brilliance. He was great. Great to see him in a role that, uses his charm in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
But the second half, I thought it just kind of fell apart.
Really?
I thought it lost its way. There were too many unanswered questions for me. What's the deal with the house? Did he buy the house that way? What's the history of this house? I mean, it's elaborate tunnel, dungeon type system that just happens to be under his house. What's the deal with that? I mean, at least give me some history about this, because I think that could have added a layer to the story. And also, and what's his deal? Why is he so obsessed with this whole notion of religion and trying to find the true religion? We never find out what's making him tick. What was an experience back in his youth that made him question everything and become so manic about it? I mean, those two things to me, had they just been touched upon, would have given us a fuller picture that I would have been more invested in. Go ahead.
That's why I love being able to talk about movies with you, is you see things in a different light than I do. And you're absolutely right. I hadn't thought of that. What made Mr. Reed tick in such an off-kilter kind of way? The house doesn't bother me so much. I'm going to just let that one go, but it would have added to it. I don't disagree with you.
I'm sure he bought the house like that, but I'm just saying, had there been some cryptics, weird history to the house, it would have added another layer. And I applaud you for you had said that you had forgiven it some of its horror film tropes, which I applaud you for. There was one at the end, though, I couldn't forgive it. I could not forgive how our heroine is rescued at the end. Okay. It made, come on, no way. However, and they missed the boat on that, because one of the tricks is, or one of the questions of the film is about resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
And a trick occurs about resurrection. What if that character who saves her at the end, it was suggested that she in fact was resurrected?
Ooh, that just sent chills down my spine.
That would have added a whole nother layer to the film and then answered the question that was being posed.
Okay.
So
but
I
in
thought
many ways, that question is answered, though, in the negative way by not allowing that to happen. It's a religious thing, Yeah. Where are your beliefs? Where do your belief systems lie?
Yeah, and again, I thought the first 45 minutes, I was there. It was brilliant. I thought the setup was great. I just didn't think they followed through enough on it. And again, I'll give horror movies a lot of rope, but that girl's dead. I mean, she is dead. There is no way. Again, I'll give you some rope, but don't insult my intelligence. So
Okay.
I'm on the fence like that. I wish Grant would get nominated. I doubt he will because it's a horror film, but he gives a great performance. He's so much fun.
Oh my goodness. He is relishing this role as the evil character. And man, his that twinkle in his eye that comes around at the most sinister times, perfectly timed. He's an incredible actor. I think he has come a long ways since those rom-coms back in the day.
Well, yeah, and all those elements were always there. That
Right.
twinkle in his eye was in the rom-coms. That little
Mhm.
smile of divisiveness was in. It's always been there. But credit to these guys for allowing him the opportunity to use all that in a different way. I mean, that was really great.
I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed a horror movie.
Yeah, I'm
You know?
surprised you did. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe there's hope for Paul. Yeah.
What's next on the list from last week that we need to gloss over?
Not going to gloss over it. I'll go quickly, but small
Okay.
things like these.
Okay.
Uh, my favorite film of the year so far. Tim Mylant's director, and check out my interview with him on our Facebook page. Directs a novella by Claire Keegan, and it stars uh, Cillian Murphy, who gives the most quietly devastating performance of the year. A man by the name of Bill Furlong, who runs his own coal company in Ireland, 1980s. And he is haunted by something he sees during one of his deliveries to a local Catholic school or a church. He sees a young woman being dragged in there, and he immediately suspects that this is one of the infamous Magdalen laundries that took place or were established in Ireland, in which so-called fallen women were institutionalized. And those fallen women were often young women who had gotten pregnant out of wedlock. They were forced to work. Their babies were often taken away from them, given to other families to adopt. And this triggers a bunch of memories in Bill, in that he understands that his mom was a single mother as well, and it was only through good luck that a woman took her in and him, a woman with money, and allowed them to stay there, work, and live. And she avoided that fate. And it's all about whether he is going to do something or not. Is he just going to go blindly along, not interfere? Just as his wife says at one point, there are just some things you've got to turn a blind eye to if you're going to get along in the world. And is he going to do that? Or is he going to act? And that is the whole film, this incredible crisis of conscience.
Yes.
Emily Watson is in it as well as the nun, the mother superior at this institution, who and they have an incredible scene in which they talk about things that they don't want to talk about, or I should say, don't talk about things in a way that is very, very cryptic and very powerful. This movie just absolutely haunts me because we all face situations like this. And I think that many of us are going to face situations like this more often in the very near future. And this is a call to action. Um, this is a statement that sometimes you can't be quiet. Sometimes there are things you can't ignore, and let the chips fall where they may. You've got to do what's right. It's not just these slogans that we see, oh yeah, I agree with that. It's not about slogans, it's about actually doing something.
Action.
Uh, and action, deeds, not words.
Right.
Uh, I absolutely love this film and I can't wait to see it again.
It's a haunting story,
Oh, yeah,
haunting
yeah,
performances,
yeah.
and incredible that it is still relevant today. And it's about integrity and our
Yeah,
moralistic compass and character. Um, and man, have we lost it? Have we lost it, Chuck?
completely.
Yeah.
Not completely, but it seems that the majority of us have. It's all
So
about our
yeah,
self-interest. It's all about, I'm looking out for myself. The hell with everyone else. That's what it seems that the majority of people have embraced.
yes. So check this one out. This one is definitely, I think about it a lot more than I thought I would. And
Uh-huh.
his Cillian Murphy's performance is so understated
But
And
it's all there, man.
oh, isn't it?
He's
It
carrying
gets,
the weight of the world on his shoulders, and you see it.
yep. So thank you for alerting me to this film, and please check out Chuck's interview with the director of this. It is a brilliant interview, and really, it really is. It digs deep, and he allows you to ask those questions that allow him to give us so much more about the film.
Yeah, thank you. And the reason it is good is because he was so open. So yeah, Tim Mylant is his name. Check it out. Great film.
Another film that, boy, talk about the pendulum swinging to the other
Yeah,
side.
there we go. Yeah.
Okay, so which one? There are two that swing to the other side. Are we going to talk about Honora or the best
Yeah,
dressed?
let's get that one out of the way.
All right. Um, whoa, Honora. I said when I saw The Substance with Demi Moore, I think my words to you or my texts to you were, I don't want to see any more boobs or butts again for a long time. Opening, opening, opening scene of Honora are like full screen eight. I don't know how big are the screens that we watch this on, Chuck? 8 feet.
It was a wide screen, but you need to put it into context as to why you had so much ass shoved in your face.
Literally asses were shoved into my face.
But
Um,
why?
it's about a sex worker. It's this woman. Her name is Honora, played by. Do you pronounce her name Mikey or Mickey?
I think it's Mikey.
Okay, Mikey Madison. And she works in a gentleman's club where she gives lap dances plus. And she meets this young boy from Russia. She happens to be able to speak Russian. And this young Russian boy, she thinks a little bit more of than just a client. And he seems to as well, and hires her to be his girlfriend for a week in his parents' high-rise condo in Jersey. This boy happens to be the product of Russian mafia parents. And when they find out what he has done with this girl, all hell breaks loose.
He marries her.
He marries her, and mommy and daddy don't like that, especially mommy. And let me tell you, mommy's a little scarier than daddy. This is written and directed by Sean Baker, who I don't typically like. This to me is one of my favorite movies that he has done. I know you're going to probably disagree with me because you like a lot of his movies.
I just like
Um,
one.
just one, Florida Project?
Florida Project. I like Florida Project. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Um, I was absolutely entranced by Madison's performance as this young sex worker, Annie is they call her. It's short for something else. Um, there's actually some humor in this too, which I was not expecting. And the humor is given to us by the thugs that are in this movie. And I am going to blank on that guy's name. Do you remember that off?
Igor. I think it's Igor.
Okay. And he just added this level of incredible complexity and humor to it. Both of them did actually. This is something that I'm going to caution people to when they go to see it, have an open mind. And know that there's a lot of butts in your face and it's a little bit raunchy, but it is
A
the
little bit.
story. Yeah, just a little bit. It is the story. And, weeks have gone by since I have seen this movie. And in all honesty, the raunchiness is kind of like flitted away. And it's just the core of the story that has stuck with me, which tells me that's a good story.
Yeah, and the more I've thought about it, the less I've liked it. Uh,
Really?
yeah, because I think we were on the opposite side of the fence as we walked out. I mean,
Right.
it's fine. It's fine. I mean, I would recommend it. But people are saying, "Oh, it's the best movie of the year. Oh,
No,
it's incredible." No, no, it is not. I think you and I can both agree it's way too long.
it is. It is.
Jesus. We're spinning our wheels at least two, maybe three occasions in this movie, in which sequences and plot points are just needlessly extended.
Right.
Uh, they go looking for her husband after he abandons her over the course of one long night. And it seems though we're with these guys every step of the way.
That
Uh,
could have been edited down by 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think overall the film itself could have been a half hour less. And I mean,
Absolutely.
it's a simple story. I mean, it's Cinderella. That's what it is, and they even reference it throughout.
Right.
Right, it's the acting, it's the relationships that make this really work. And yet, yeah, the character's name I was wrong is Ivan.
Okay.
Mark Edelstein is his name. A lot of Russian actors in this, as you would imagine. He and the other handlers who end up being like the Three Stooges, because she just kicks their ass right and left, literally and figuratively. I mean, really some much needed humor. Had
Right.
the film had this humor, I really would not have liked it.
I
So,
think you're right. I think there was that balance there. And that's what, another movie that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, balance is key to
mhm.
something. You just can't have downtrodden tragedy all the way through. It's just, it's monotonous and you build a wall up against seeing anything, you know?
Right, right. Especially with something like this. So I would recommend it. Again, not even close to being the best movie of the year. My fear though is that this is going to be like, the year of everywhere, everything all at once, in which everyone's going to get behind this and drive it forward. And I'm like, no, no thanks.
All righty. Well, let's go again. And I guess there are 360 degrees on a pendulum if you swing it around in a circle. So let's go to another point on that pendulum and check out the best Christmas pageant ever.
I didn't realize that the best Christmas pageant ever was in fact a well-loved book. Apparently, it came out in 1972. When I mentioned this to my wife, she said, "Oh yeah, that's a book." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, it's a book, and it's a book about a town by the name of Emmanuel, because we're going to really be subtle about all of this. Uh, and the annual Christmas pageant they have, in which they recreate basically the nativity story. Um, the woman who runs this with an iron hand, because everything's the same every year, she breaks both of her legs.
Don't ask
And don't ask why, because we're never told. And she must have been just absolutely high on morphine or everything after she broke her legs, because she's not feeling any pain at all. This is narrated by a character by the name of Beth, and Beth is remembering all of this primarily because her mom, Grace, played by Judy Greer, is the one who foolishly steps in and says, "I'm going to run the pageant." Well, she has no idea what she's getting into. And the other key factor of the film are this family called the Herdmans.
yes.
The Herdmans consist of six malcontent kids who apparently are the biggest bullies in the town. Their parents apparently don't exist. They're allowed to run wild. They bully, they harass all the kids, and the parents just kind of turn a blind eye and say, well, that's just the way it is.
Well, and this was also in the 1970s.
Right, but we're going to get to that.
Okay.
We're going to get
Okay.
Grace, as I said, is in over her head, and once the Herdmans express an interest in being in this pageant, she's helpless. She can't stop them. And before you know it, Imogen, the oldest girl in the Herdmans, has taken over the role of the Virgin Mary, and the community is all up in arms, because how can you have these ragtag kids actually be in the story? And of course, it all turns around when these dullards finally realize that, yeah, that's what the story is actually about. The story is about outsiders. The story is about taking care of people who are down and out. The story is about sympathy and empathy, which, of course, as so many, I'm not going to say this, as is often forgotten at churches. You can't just talk about it. You got to actually do it. And this is the wake-up call for the Emmanuel town.
Very good. Well, I remember this, as did Beth, as a book because I used to read this to my kids, I think in like first and second grade. And I asked my daughter, I called her up and said, hey, you know what? The best Christmas pageant ever is coming out in a movie. She goes, okay. I'm like, don't
Yeah.
you remember reading that book to you with my animated voices of all these characters? She's like, no. I'm like, oh,
Sorry.
I know.
Sorry.
I know. So this weekend, I'm going to ask my son if he remembers anything that I have done. I don't know.
I know.
Um,
Maybe I'm thinking too much of this movie, about this movie. But I really had some problems with it at the end. I mean, again, I guess I'm not supposed to ask why these kids are supposed to run around without any supervision. I guess I'm not supposed to ask why the church, no one stepped in to help these kids. I mean, and we get no back, we get nothing at the end either that the church then continued to help them or anything like that. It kind of put me, this is one of the reasons why I don't like the Polar Express movie at
Okay.
all. Because, we go on this big trip, and then at the end of the movie where the train comes back, we dump this poor kid back at the shitty house where he's got to live the rest of the year. Really? This is happy? I felt awful for this kid. Oh yeah, go back to that shithole where you got to live with your dad, and everything will be back in a year, and we'll take you on another trip. What's going on with these kids? And I know I'm thinking too much about it. I'm just supposed to go with the message, but yeah, I don't know. It
I
did.
mean,
I will say one thing. It did capture the tone of like a Christmas story, which I know they were going for.
oh, absolutely. In fact, they had a couple scenes from A Christmas Story in there.
It seemed like it. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And
I guess I'm wrong about this one.
well, no, you're not wrong. You're just looking at it a little differently. And I think that's what this movie is all about is perspective. Again, tying that into our world today is perspective, seeing things in a different way. Your perspective is different than mine. And Imogene's perspective on the Virgin Mary story is
Exactly.
totally different than the rest of the towns because they've heard it their entire lives and they don't think about it. I mean, any story we hear that we've heard over and over again, how many, if somebody heard that for the first time, any story, what would they ask if they weren't familiar with it? I thought that was wonderfully done. And to
I
me,
agree.
that's what this story is about is perspective and trying to see it through somebody else's eyes. I had fun with it. I actually cried at the end, but I love the book too. So that is something that is very nostalgic to me. Apparently not as nostalgic to my daughter.
Exactly. Sorry about that. And I will say I shed a tear or two as well. Thanks to the young girl who played Imogene, Beatrice Schneider.
Just
She was
good.
really, she was really good. There was no question about it.
Yeah.
So families are going to love this.
Yes. And I think, you know what, this time of year, if you want to take your kids to a movie, you're going to enjoy it too. It's tough to find those types of movies that adults and kids can enjoy. Just
Yeah.
sit back, have fun, and enjoy the message.
And yeah, and you can talk about this afterwards.
Yeah.
Good conversation.
Yeah. Another movie that I want to talk about is A Real Pain. And I know that I enjoyed this one a little bit more than you. I think Jesse Eisenberg, who writes, directs, and co-stars in this movie, is somebody who drives you bonkers with his staccato, frenetic speech and mannerisms. Is that right?
I don't mind it. I just wish he'd do something different.
Okay.
It's
I
the
thought
same
it was
thing all the time.
it is in the same thing with Kieran Culkin, who co-stars as his cousin in this movie. They both have their own unique styles, and I think for this movie, those styles fit and they work. Jesse Eisenberg stars as David, and Kieran Culkin, as I just said, stars as Benji. They're cousins. Their grandmother has recently passed away, and she has paid for a trip for the two of them to go to Poland, her homeland, to discover where she came from and the fact that she survived the concentration camps during World War II. They join up with this group of geriatric tourists, as they call them. It's a ragtag group of people who some are Jewish, some are not. They're all there for their own very different reasons. We don't delve too deeply into them except from the very beginning as they're introducing themselves. This is a road trip kind of movie with two people, one who's very uptight, David, and one who couldn't give a crap about what anybody else thinks. He's just honest with the world and perhaps, though, not with himself. And that's Benji. Um, they both had to wrestle their demons. They all were in a lot of pain in some way. It wasn't just about grandma's pain, and it wasn't just the fact that Benji's a pain in the ass. They're all experiencing pain. And I think that's what I loved about this movie is when David at the dinner scene finally breaks down and says all the things that have been bothering him. He has like a volcano of verbiage to describe his life, and it's cathartic for him. And I think that just kind of points out that we all experience some levels of pain, some more so than others. And I think we need to be aware of that and compassionate when we deal with others. So I really enjoyed this movie. I thought the acting was great. I thought their chemistry was amazing. And I hats off to Jesse Eisenberg for wearing 3 hats. I think he did a spectacular job. And I never wanted to go to Poland. I still don't really want to, but it was a lot prettier than I thought it was going to be.
So answer a question for me.
Okay.
Why was Benji in pain?
Um,
Other than his grandmother passing, why was he in pain?
I don't know. I just got the sense that they both went in 2 different directions, and that's what you didn't like about the movie.
Why was he in pain? I mean, what was the traumatic experience that he had? You know, you can't to me have, you know, and I'm not supposed to say this because it's about the Holocaust and, you know, that's subject to sacrosanct and, you know, it's, you know, you're not supposed to criticize anything like this. But as a structural thing, what's the guy's deal? I mean, what, he just has no direction? He lives in his mother's basement?
Smoking pot all day.
Okay, yeah, wow. That's really a rough experience there, buddy. You and a
Well,
million years, right? I mean,
it
so what is it? And I don't mean to discount it, but you got to give me something.
well, I got the fact that he was homeless.
He was what?
Homeless.
He was living in his mother's basement.
No, used to. And right now
Used to. Okay, he's homeless.
he's homeless. I mean, that's kind of a problem, you know?
Sure, but he had a family, right? He has a
Um,
family support system.
yeah. I don't know, Chuck. That's a very good point. Again, just like with Heretic, that is an excellent point to raise. I just I gave him a pass on that because I think a lot of people are miserable for, maybe I'm miserable and people look at my life and think, what the hell is your problem? You know?
Right. I agree with that. We all carry our burdens. We all have our problems. You know, I get that. But from a storytelling point of view, if you want me to sympathize with a character, I need to know why he is or she is the way she is.
Okay. All right.
You know, we were told that there was a suicide attempt.
Right.
Why?
Okay.
What happened? What was so, and and I know I'm not supposed to say that too, but all of the characters, I mean, all of these acts that he goes through are, to call attention to himself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are a plea for help, obviously,
Right.
but it becomes too much. It becomes, I think, an ego-driven thing with him, wanting this attention,
Okay.
to the point to where, again, I guess I'm supposed to be sympathetic, but he just comes off as a rude bore to me.
Okay.
I'd have punched him in the face at least a couple of times.
He absolutely was. And I
I mean,
and the young man that plays the tour guide.
oh
um,
God, this poor guy.
I know. So
So
the way things came across were totally, accepting. They were very accepting of him. I think they saw that he was in a lot of pain
sure,
and gave him a pass because of that. And I think that group of people in particular was probably a little more tolerant than
than
maybe
me.
you or I would have been if he was in our group. Because I was like, in the very beginning, I was like, oh my God, there's always one like that in a group,
Right.
which is
Well,
why I don't do tours.
well, but again, from just a basic storytelling structure, if you're
I
going to have a
gotcha.
character that I want to punch in the nose, you need to give me a reason why I don't want to punch him in the nose. Oh my God, your parents died in a horrible, car crash. I get it now. I give you an excuse. Thank you. I get it.
Okay. All right.
Seems to be lazy screenwriting for me.
Okay. I accept what you're saying and I agree with it to a point. I think I enjoyed it a lot more than you.
Oh, you did.
Thank you for sharing that aspect of it. And we have one more to talk about. I know we're running out of time here. We've got one more to talk about, and man, I'm gonna let you take this one away. Emilia Perez.
Oh, Emilia Perez. You talk about a movie that just sets out to do all sorts of different things. This is Netflix's big contender for the awards this year. It's going to get some attention. We'll see how far it gets because obviously it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
Emilia Perez is, now let's hang on, let's make sure I get this right. Emilia Perez is about a leader of a drug cartel in Mexico vicious guy who wants to become a woman. He employs an attorney played by Zoe Saldana. Character is Rita, and says, basically, I'm going to give you all the money in the world. You just got to help me find someone who's going to do this, get me a new identity, and help me fake my death. Just another day at the office. She,
Well,
she really doesn't have much of a choice because
he
she's
doesn't.
not really. So she goes along with this, and of course, the gangster becomes Emilia Perez. Adding more complication to this is that the gangster is married to Jessie, played by Selena Gomez, and they have a couple of kids. Amelia, of course, is missing their children, so she comes up with this elaborate ruse appearing as Jessie's husband's long-forgotten cousin, who insists that they come and live with her so that he can then be close to, or she can then be close to, their kids. Did I mention that it's a musical? It's also a musical. It's a dark comedy at times. There are times when I laughed out loud. And it also is a social commentary on many of the problems facing Mexico at this time. And it becomes even more complicated than what I just told you. And I certainly don't want to tell you any more because there are plenty of surprises along the way in this thing. One of the things I really loved about it was this thing has a running time of 2 hours and 12 minutes. For me, it never felt like that.
Right.
It zips along from one thing to the next, the enthusiastic musical routines. And then you get a weird plot twist here, and then another plot twist there, and an oh my gosh moment there. I mean, it never lags at any point. And even though it's throwing a lot at you, it's all easy to digest. And you know, I don't like musicals. I don't like musicals. And it does drop the musical strand at one point, which you and I have both talked about. Suddenly there's that song for 45 minutes, and then all of a sudden we come back to that, which is, but this thing just swept me away, And I'm anxious to see it again, and it will be easy to see it again because it's on Netflix. Because there's a lot going on, and I'm sure I missed some things. And I have a feeling, I could be wrong, I have a feeling this is a movie that you're going to catch more with each viewing.
Right.
And the other thing I loved is that it's not just about Emilia Perez, it's about all three of these women going through changes, finding their true identity to become the person they want to be. And that, of course, is the theme throughout, and really is timely.
Yeah, I think so too. And I thought that was a beautiful way to connect all three women and
Yes.
tell that story. And I think that's what makes it a universal story, is that we all are striving to be the people that we want to be. Sometimes we don't know who we want to be either. And I think that comes around a little bit later in life. And all three of them figure that out. I really enjoyed this. The musical part kind of bugged me. I wish there would have been more musical aspects, which I'm shocked that I'm saying that. But
Yeah.
when they did drop that for a good 45 minutes or so, as you said, and then they threw it back in, I'm like, whoa, that's right, it's a musical. And
Forgot about it. Yeah.
yeah. If you forgot about it and I forgot about it, let's not bring it up again or put another number in.
Right. And maybe that's a testament to the fact that we were just so swept away by the story as well.
Right. Could be.
That
Could
we
be.
thought about that.
So
It's going to
next,
be interesting to see how the public responds to this, as well as awards voters. It's going to be really interesting because I know they're going to press this big time. I think Saldana should win for Best Supporting Actress. I can't remember a supporting performance as good as this all year.
so crazy different. I mean,
Yes.
what they had her do and the person that she had to be was incredible.
Yeah, and Saldana showed an aspect of her I didn't know existed.
Right.
I
Same.
didn't realize she was that diverse.
Yeah, and she is a singer and a dancer, and that's how she started out. And she was able to awaken that part of who she is as a performer for this role. We also got a chance to meet everybody, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
And when you talk about Carla Sofia Gascon in the lead role, we met her, so charming, and she just carries this role on her back. And we were both stunned when we realized that she plays the male counterpart
no idea.
of the character. Because when you look at it, you as you're watching the movie, you're like, oh, this, yeah, it's got to be two different people.
Yeah, so we're trying to look up, and then the publicist from Netflix said, "Well, she played the guy." I'm like,
No
"No."
way.
I couldn't believe it. And
Yeah,
yeah, she's charming, she's charismatic, she is fun, man. I would love to like go hang out with her because she's so much fun and energy.
yeah, she was a blast. She was a
Yes.
blast. Yeah,
So next,
I know you and I look forward to meeting her again at the Critics' Choice
oh,
Awards.
absolutely. Yeah.
She's sweet.
Yeah. Next week we've got a couple biggies. We've got Wicked coming out and Gladiator 2
As well as the piano lesson on Netflix,
and Joy on Netflix.
and Bonhoeffer,
Yep.
a biopic about a German pastor who was a resistance fighter, basically, during World War II. And also, I believe, is next week also Blitz.
It is streaming on Apple. I believe it had a theatrical release a couple weeks
Right.
ago. Yeah, so now it is going to be streaming on Apple. And did you get a chance to see that yet?
I did not. I'm waiting for it to come on the Apple app. I'm hoping it'll come on as they usually do. They usually give it to you a couple days before it comes out. So I'm hoping to watch that next week before we talk.
All righty, I have seen it and I cannot wait to discuss it.
You realize that we have covered 6 movies in this time period. Have we ever done that?
I don't think we have. That's
Good
kind
God. Well, we're going to have to do it again next week. So this is good practice. Good run there.
All right, way to go. All right, thanks everyone for listening to Real Talk with Chuck and Pam. Check our website out, realtalkwithchuckandpam.com. That's REEL, and you can get links to everything because Matt Kabinski, our wonderful designer, made it so that you can access everything from our YouTube channel to our Facebook page, Instagram, and whatever else we have up there. You can get it on our website. Thanks everyone for listening.